Alright, chapter 6, serving coffee. Joe gets back to his office that same day, so this would be Tuesday. And his friend Pender dropped him off. A friend of Pender's had dropped him off at Learning Systems for Children earlier, so Joe was now giving him a ride back. Pender was dropped off at LSC, Learning Centers for Children earlier, so now Joe was giving a ride back to Pender. Just as had gotten done after lunch with Ernesto, Joe now retraced his conversation with Nicole Martin, trying to understand everything he had heard. What made the young woman rise to such an astonishing success? Was it as simple as what she called the law of compensation? Joe pulled into Pender's driveway to drop off his host. Rachel was standing at the front door, holding a small package. Pender hopped out. Joe leaned over to call out to Rachel. Alright, where do we leave off? So Rachel gives 1 pound of coffee to Joe. Great lunch, Rachel. Thanks a million, Joe says. Having too much fun with this. Oh. The aroma announced itself immediately. It was a pound of Rachel's famous coffee, freshly ground for Joe. The good old freshly ground coffee. I haven't had coffee in a while. Maybe I want to get some coffee. Get some coffee lit in my life. Whoa. Alright, let's get back on task. Focusing on the chapter. CEO of Kindergarten Boardroom, let's see. That afternoon, Melanie Matthews sat buried in conversations over her quarter-end reports when she was surprised by the most delicious aroma. She looked up and was startled to see Joe with a cup of fresh steaming coffee for her. Touch of half and half, 1 sugar, he noted about as he placed it carefully on her desk. This was exactly how Melanie liked her coffee, though she couldn't remember having ever mentioned this to Joe, and that incredible aroma. She thanked him and took a sip. It was the very best coffee she'd ever tasted. Over the next 30 minutes, she took up a cup of the hot, delicious coffee to each worker on the entire 7th floor. A few of them he knew well, some he knew only vaguely, some he never met. All were equally surprised and pleased to find the young go-getter taking the time to serve them freshly coffee as they each wrestled with their own third quarter deadline workloads. 1 or 2 looked downright puzzled and nodded their mute thanks, wondering what's gotten into him. Sounds like an interesting scenario as far as you have all these people Joe works with where they're just stressed out, they're struggling with having to conform to these sale quotas they have to make. And are they necessarily really adding value other than money in their pockets and money in other people's, and like a few other select people's pockets? Whereas Joe is going around, he's actually making a fairly significant difference in his coworkers' lives by giving them coffee, being genuine, being kind, being courteous, and giving them value with coffee, and really taking the time to do so. Because ultimately, first off, it takes time to do what Joe's doing, and that's such a huge appreciation that people have when they notice that you're taking the time for them. It goes far. It goes absolutely far. So all his coworkers were puzzled. When Joe arrived back at his own desk with the last cup, Gus sat waiting for him. So Gus, I believe, is the boss for Joe, and if not, he's one of the higher successful people in the office. I'm pretty sure it's his boss, though. Thanks, but I'm fine. Gus sat back in his chair and looked at Joe with curiosity. Okay, said Joe. You know the guy you asked about last week, Pender? Well, this weekend I went to see him. Ah, said Gus. And this is what, something like homework? Joe shrugged. More or less. Yesterday I had to give more in value than I got in payment. Ah, the lead you gave to Jim Galloway. Joe blushed, so Gus had overheard him doing that. Today I had to enlarge the number of people I served. Gus let out a quiet laugh. So you served your colleagues their coffee? Right. Joe looked around the floor. Think it'll turn those third quarter figures around. Gus peered at him closely, then realized he was joking. Hey, Joe added, it's the only thing I could think of. Besides, it's not just coffee, it's Rachel's famous coffee. Gus smiled and got to his feet. I'm glad you went to see the man, Joe. Tell me something. Sure, what? Gus looked around the office. How did it feel, serving all those people? Joe followed his gaze, then looked back to the other man's eyes. Tell you the truth, I felt like an idiot. Gus laughed again and then leaned forward and said, sometimes you feel foolish, even look foolish, but you do the thing anyway. And with that, he plunked his tweed jacket from the coat rack on the wall outside his office and headed for home. Chapter 6 in the books.